Alien predator declared unstoppable until the human student called it dinner. The Galactic Academy's Xenobiology department had never seen anything quite like the Vorthak. Standing 12 feet tall with obsidian carapace plating, razor-sharp, claws that could slice through titanium, and a mouth lined with rows of crystalline teeth, it was the apex predator of the Andromeda sector. The creature's reputation preceded it across 17 star systems. No sentient being had ever survived an encounter with a wild Vorthak. Professor Zekthara, a distinguished Altarian scholar, gestured toward the massive containment field with all 4 of her tentacles trembling. "This specimen," she announced to her diverse class of alien students, "represents the pinnacle of evolutionary perfection. The Vorthak has no natural predators. Its hide can deflect plasma bolts. Its speed exceeds most atmospheric vehicles, and its hunting instincts are beyond compare." The assembled students, a mix of crystalline xanthians, gaseous nebuloids, and various other species, observed the creature with appropriate reverence and terror. The Vorthak paced within its energy prison, occasionally testing the barriers, with experimental swipes of its claws. Each impact sent ripples of electric blue across the containment field. "Note the predatory grace," Professor Zekthara continued, her translator device struggling with her excited chittering. "The way it moves suggests it's already calculating 17 different ways to eliminate every being in this room." In the back row, Marcus Chen raised his hand. The human exchange student had been quietly taking notes on his tablet, occasionally glancing up at the creature with what could only be described as culinary interest. "Yes, Mr. Chen," Professor Zekthara acknowledged, her compound eyes focusing on the relatively small primate that had somehow earned admission to the galaxy's most prestigious academy. "Quick question," Marcus said, standing up and squinting at the Vorthak. "Is that thing edible?" The classroom fell silent. Several gaseous students actually condensed in shock. A xanthian's crystalline structure began resonating at a frequency that suggested deep distress. "I beg your pardon?" Professor Zekthara's tentacles had stopped moving entirely. Marcus pointed at the creature with his stylus. "I mean, look at it. That's basically a 12-foot lobster with anger management issues. The carapace suggests the meat underneath would be sweet, maybe a bit tough, but nothing a good marinade couldn't handle. And those claws? Premium white meat, guaranteed." The Vorthak itself seemed to pause in its pacing, as if it could understand the human's words through the universal translator. Its 6 eyes focused on Marcus with what might have been confusion, an expression that had never crossed a Vorthak's features in its species' million-year history. "Mr. Chen," Professor Zekthara said slowly, "this creature has eliminated entire colonial expeditions. It once killed a squad of armored Kandorian warriors in under 30 seconds. Right, but did they try seasoning first?" Marcus was now walking closer to the containment field, much to the horror of his classmates. "See, the thing about apex predators is they usually taste amazing. Earth has this whole tradition: shark fin soup, alligator steaks, bear meat. The more dangerous something is, the better it tastes. Something about the adrenaline, maybe." The Vorthak pressed against the containment field, its crystalline teeth gleaming. For the first time in recorded history, it seemed uncertain. "I'm thinking," Marcus continued, pulling out his phone and scrolling through what appeared to be recipes, maybe a nice garlic butter sauce, or we could go Asian fusion, some soy sauce, ginger, maybe a touch of wasabi. Oh, or Cajun style. Humans from Louisiana could make this thing taste incredible. A small nebuloid student fainted, their gaseous form dispersing across the floor. "Mr. Chen," Professor Zekthara's voice was barely a whisper, "you cannot be serious." "Dead serious. Look, I've been living on processed ration bars for 3 months. Do you know what I'd give for fresh meat?" Marcus had somehow procured a small notebook and was sketching what appeared to be butcher's cuts on the Vorthak's body. The tail alone would feed a dozen people. And those leg muscles? Pure protein. The Vorthak began making a sound that the universal translator struggled to process, somewhere between a whimper and existential dread. "The real question," Marcus said, tapping his stylus against his lips thoughtfully, "is whether it's better grilled or roasted. Something that size might need slow cooking. Maybe wrap parts of it in foil with some vegetables. Professor Zekthera found herself backing away from both the human and the containment field. This is not how apex predators are supposed to work. Actually, said Marcus, looking up from his notes, humans are apex predators too. We just don't look like it. We're persistence hunters. We literally ran our prey to death for thousands of years, and then we figured out fire and cooking and basically turned the entire food chain into a menu. He gestured at the Vorthak, which had now retreated to the far corner of its containment field and appeared to be having an existential crisis. This guy, he's basically a really big crab. On Earth, we have festivals dedicated to eating things like this. Whole industries built around cracking shells and extracting meat. I bet there are at least 50 different human recipes that would work perfectly. The classroom evacuation began quietly at first, a few students slipping toward the exits, but soon became a full retreat as Marcus continued his culinary assessment. Even Professor Zekthara was edging toward the door. "Where's everyone going?" Marcus called out, seemingly oblivious to the panic he'd caused. "I was just getting to the part about wine pairings." The Vorthak, for its part, had curled into what could only be described as a fetal position. The galaxy's most feared predator was experiencing something entirely new, the terrifying realization that somewhere in the universe, there was something that saw it not as a threat, but as lunch. As the last of his classmates fled, Marcus remained alone with the creature, still sketching portion sizes and cooking times. "You know what?" he said to the cowering Vorthak. "I bet you'd taste even better barbecued. Humans invented this thing called smoking. It's revolutionary." The Vorthak whimpered. Later that day, galactic news networks would report the first recorded instance of an apex predator requesting protective custody from its own containment facility. The request was approved unanimously. Marcus Chen, meanwhile, was already researching whether the academy cafeteria had a grill he could borrow.